The knife pressed against my throat, cold steel biting into skin as I stood frozen in the marble foyer of Blackwood Industries. Blood trickled down my neck, warm against the winter chill that had followed me inside from the storm raging beyond those floor-to-ceiling windows. "You're late, Miss Brooks," the man behind me whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "The Alpha doesn't appreciate tardiness." My hands trembled as I clutched the contract I'd come to sign. The same contract that would save Danny's life. The same contract that would make me a werewolf's wife for exactly 365 days. I'd expected lawyers, maybe some security guards. I hadn't expected to walk into an ambush. But why was someone trying to kill me before I could even sign it? Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. The elevator dinged somewhere behind us, its soft chime cutting through the tension like a blade. The knife trembled against my throat as footsteps echoed across the marble, each one deliberate, measured. Expensive Italian leather against stone. "Release her." The voice that spoke was ice wrapped in velvet, commanding without shouting. I felt the man behind me stiffen, his grip on the knife faltering just slightly. "Mr. Blackwood," my attacker stammered. "Sir, I was just..." "You were just leaving." Those footsteps grew closer. Permanently. I heard fabric rustle, then a sound I couldn't quite identify. A wet, tearing noise followed by a scream that cut off abruptly. The knife fell away from my throat, clattering to the marble floor as something heavy collapsed behind me. I spun around, expecting to see a body. Instead, I saw nothing but empty space and a man in an immaculate charcoal suit, not even breathing hard. Nikolai Blackwood stood 6 feet away, straightening his silver cufflinks as if he'd just finished adjusting his tie, not disposing of someone who'd been about to kill me. "Miss Brooks." His eyes were the color of winter storms, pale gray shot through with silver. They fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. "You're bleeding." I touched my neck, fingers coming away red. "Where did he go?" "That's not your concern." Nikolai pulled a pristine white handkerchief from his jacket pocket, extending it toward me. "Your concern is whether you're still willing to honor our agreement despite this unfortunate welcome." I stared at the handkerchief, then at him. In the photographs Danny had shown me, Nikolai Blackwood had looked cold, distant. A billionaire CEO who happened to run in exclusive circles where supernatural politics ruled everything. But standing here now, I realized the photographs hadn't captured the predatory stillness in the way he moved, or the way his presence seemed to fill the entire lobby despite his calm exterior. They definitely hadn't captured the faint golden glow that flickered in his eyes when he looked at me. "The contract," I managed, holding up the papers with shaking hands. "I need to sign it tonight. Danny's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning." Something shifted in Nikolai's expression, so subtle I almost missed it. "Your brother's medical bills will be paid regardless of what you decide in the next 5 minutes. But if you sign that contract, Jade, there's no going back." The way he said my name sent shivers down my spine. Like he was tasting it. "I don't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice." He stepped closer, and I caught his scent. Pine and something darker, wilder. Something that made my pulse race in ways that had nothing to do with fear. "The question is whether you understand what you're choosing." I looked down at the contract again. 20 pages of legal jargon that boiled down to something impossibly simple. Marry Nikolai Blackwood for 1 year, live in his penthouse, attend his social functions, and in return, Danny would get the experimental treatment that could save his life. Plus $5 million when it was over. It seemed too good to be true. It definitely seemed too good to be true after someone had just tried to kill me in his lobby. Who was that man? I asked. Someone who believed he could claim what belongs to me before I could claim it myself. Nikolai's voice carried an edge now, something that raised goosebumps along my arms. There are certain factions within the pack who would prefer I remain unmated, unattached, available for political maneuvering. "I'm not really going to be your mate," I said quickly. "This is just a business arrangement. A contract marriage to satisfy some legal requirement for your company, right?" The silence that followed stretched too long. When I looked up, Nikolai was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Of course, he said finally. A business arrangement. But something in his tone made me think he was lying. He gestured toward the elevators. Shall we discuss the details upstairs? I think we've both had enough excitement for one evening. The ride to the top floor happened in silence. I kept stealing glances at Nikolai's reflection in the polished steel doors, trying to reconcile the controlled businessman with whatever I'd witnessed in the lobby. He stood perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back, but I could swear I heard him breathing deeper when I moved closer. His penthouse was exactly what I'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city below, all glittering lights and shadow. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black. Abstract art that probably cost more than most people's houses. What I hadn't expected was how it would smell like him everywhere. That same pine and wilderness scent, but stronger here. More concentrated. Drink. He moved to a bar cart without waiting for my answer, pouring amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. I don't really drink. Tonight you do. He handed me the glass anyway. You're about to marry a werewolf, Jade. I think that calls for whiskey. I took a sip and immediately regretted it. The liquid burned going down, but warmth spread through my chest afterward. How do I know you won't hurt me? Because if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be dead. The casual way he said it should have terrified me. Instead, it was oddly comforting. Like he was being honest for the first time since I'd arrived. Why me? I asked. You could marry anyone. Someone from your world. Someone who understands pack politics and supernatural society. Why choose a random human whose brother happened to need expensive medical treatment? Nikolai set his glass down without drinking from it. Because someone from my world would have expectations. Demands. Political agendas. He moved closer, and I found myself backed against the window, cool glass pressing against my shoulders. You, on the other hand, just want to save your brother and disappear. Clean. Simple. He was close enough now that I could see flecks of gold in those storm-colored eyes. Close enough that his heat seemed to envelope me despite the chill from the window. Plus, he continued, voice dropping lower, you're not afraid of me. I should be. Yes. You should be. His hand came up to trace the cut on my neck, fingers featherlight against the wound. But you're not. Why is that, Jade? I couldn't think with him touching me like that. Couldn't breathe with his scent filling my lungs and his eyes searching my face like he was looking for something specific. I don't know, I whispered. I do. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and I felt something electric shoot through me. But that's a conversation for another night. He stepped back abruptly, leaving me cold and confused against the window. The contract. Do you have questions about the terms? I blinked, trying to refocus on why I was here. Danny. The surgery. The $5 million that would set us both up for life. Just one, I managed. What happens if I fall in love with you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Heat flooded my cheeks as soon as I realized what I'd said. Nikolai went very still. That won't happen. How can you be sure? Because I won't let it. He moved back to the bar cart, putting distance between us. This is a business transaction, Jade. Nothing more. In 12 months, you'll walk away with enough money to start over anywhere you want. I'll have satisfied the pack's requirements for mating. Everyone wins. And if your wolf disagrees? I don't know why I asked that. I knew next to nothing about werewolf politics, but something about the way he'd reacted when I mentioned his wolf earlier made me think it was important. My wolf, he said carefully, understands the terms of this arrangement. But when he turned back to face me, his eyes were glowing gold again. I signed the contract at 11:47 p.m., my signature looking small and human next to his bold scroll. The moment the ink dried, I felt something shift in the air around us. Like a door had closed somewhere, or maybe opened. It's done, Nikolai said, gathering the papers. You'll move in tomorrow evening. I'll have a car pick you up after Danny's surgery. What if? He'll be fine. Nikolai's voice was certain, final. Dr. Reeves is the best surgeon on the East Coast. Danny will have the treatment he needs, and he'll recover fully. I wanted to ask how he could be so sure, but something in his expression warned me not to push. Instead, I nodded and headed for the elevator. Jade. I turned back at the doors. The man in the lobby tonight. He won't be the last to try something like that. From now on, you're under my protection, but that also makes you a target. Be careful who you trust. Even you. Something that might have been a smile flickered across his face. Especially me. The elevator doors closed before I could ask what he meant. I made it home to my tiny apartment at 12:30 a.m., exhausted and overwhelmed. Danny was sleeping, his face pale but peaceful in the dim light from the hallway. I sat on the edge of his bed and watched him breathe, trying to process everything that had happened. In 18 hours, I would be married to a werewolf. In 18 hours, my life would change completely. I was so focused on Danny that I almost missed the envelope that had been slipped under my door. Plain white paper, no return address. Inside was a single photograph and a note written in careful handwriting. The photograph showed Nikolai and me in his penthouse, taken through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I was pressed against the glass, his hand on my neck, both of us looking at each other with an intensity that was unmistakable even in a grainy surveillance photo. The note was brief. He's not who you think he is. The contract isn't what you think it is. If you want to save your brother's life, meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. Come alone, or Danny dies. A friend. I stared at the photograph until my hands started shaking. Someone had been watching us. Someone knew about the contract, about Danny's surgery, about everything. But who? And what did they know about Nikolai that I didn't? I looked back at Danny, peaceful and unaware of the dangerous game I'd just dragged us both into. The surgery was in 8 hours. Nikolai had promised Danny would be fine, but what if this mysterious person was right? What if I'd signed away our lives along with my freedom? I folded the note and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Tomorrow, I would marry Nikolai Blackwood. But first, I was going to find out exactly what I'd gotten myself into. Outside my window, something howled in the distance. The sound was wild and mournful, carrying on the wind like a warning. Or maybe a promise. The surgery took 6 hours. I spent every minute of it pacing the hospital corridors, checking my phone obsessively, and trying not to think about the photograph burning a hole in my jacket pocket. When Dr. Reeves finally emerged from the operating room, her scrubs were stained with blood, but she was smiling. The procedure was a complete success, she said, pulling off her surgical cap. Danny's going to make a full recovery. I collapsed into the nearest chair, relief flooding through me so completely that I started crying. Ugly, grateful sobs that echoed off the sterile walls. Miss Brooks. Dr. Reeves sat down beside me. There is something I should mention. The experimental treatment your brother received. It's not typically available to patients in his condition. Someone with considerable influence made this possible. Mr. Blackwood, I managed between tears. Yes, but that's not what I find interesting. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. The treatment involves genetic modification at a cellular level. It's still in trials because we don't fully understand all the side effects yet. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of side effects? Enhanced healing. Increased physical strength. Heightened senses. She paused. Changes that some might consider supernatural. Before I could ask what she meant, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Riverside Park. 1 hour. Your brother's life depends on it. I looked at Dr. Reeves, but she was already standing, her expression carefully neutral. Danny should wake up in a few hours. You might want to get some rest before then. She walked away before I could respond, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts and a growing certainty that nothing about this arrangement was what it seemed. Riverside Park at noon was nearly deserted. November wind whipped through the bare trees, sending dead leaves skittering across empty walkways. I found the bench mentioned in the second text I'd received, pulled my coat tighter, and waited. You came. The voice behind me was soft, female. I turned to see a woman about my age approaching, auburn hair catching the weak sunlight. She was beautiful in that effortless way that suggested money and breeding, but her designer clothes couldn't hide the fear in her dark eyes. "Who are you?" I asked. "Someone who made the same mistake you're about to make." She sat down beside me, maintaining careful distance. "My name is Victoria Hale. 3 years ago, I signed a contract very similar to yours." "You were married to Nikolai?" "Not Nikolai. His older brother, Alexander." Her voice went hollow. Alexander Blackwood was supposed to be the next alpha. The contract was meant to solidify his position within the pack hierarchy. "What happened to him?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. "Nikolai happened to him." A jogger passed us, earbuds in, completely oblivious to our conversation. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that supernatural politics were being discussed on park benches in broad daylight. "Nikolai killed his own brother?" I whispered. "The official story is that Alexander died in a car accident. Very tragic, very convenient." Victoria pulled out her phone, showing me a photograph. This was taken the night before Alexander's death. The image showed a man who looked like Nikolai but softer somehow, more approachable. He was standing next to Victoria, both of them formally dressed, both of them smiling. But in the background, barely visible in the shadows, stood another figure. Nikolai, watching them with an expression of pure hatred. "Alexander was going to dissolve our contract early," Victoria continued. "He'd fallen in love with me, you see. Really in love, not just the mating bond that werewolves experience. He wanted to give me a choice about staying." "And Nikolai didn't approve?" "Nikolai didn't approve of anything that threatened his position as heir. See, in werewolf society, the alpha's mate holds significant power. If Alexander had truly mated with me, if we'd had children, Nikolai's claim to leadership would have been compromised." I thought about the golden glow in Nikolai's eyes, the way he'd said his wolf understood our arrangement. "But our contract is only for a year. I'm not really going to be his mate." Victoria's expression turned pitying. "Jade, honey, you don't understand how this works. The contract is just paperwork. The moment you say, 'I do' in front of the pack, the mating bond begins. It doesn't matter if you're human or if it's temporary. His wolf will recognize you as his mate, and once that happens..." "Once that happens, what?" "He'll never let you go. Ever." She gripped my arm, fingernails digging in through my coat. "The year-long contract is a lie. It's designed to make you feel safe, to make you sign willingly. But werewolf mating bonds are permanent, Jade. They don't dissolve when a piece of paper expires." My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number, "Car arriving in 5 minutes. Time to go, Mrs. Blackwood." "I have to go," I said, standing up. "The wedding is in 2 hours. Don't do this." Victoria stood too, desperation clear in her voice. "Find another way to help your brother. Run. Disappear. Anything is better than what Nikolai will do to you." "He won't hurt me." "No, he won't hurt you. He'll own you. There's a difference." A black sedan pulled up to the curb, windows tinted too dark to see inside. The driver's door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked directly at me and nodded. "That's my ride," I said. "Jade, please. Why should I trust you?" I turned back to Victoria. "You show up with some story about Nikolai killing his brother, but you have no proof. For all I know, you're working for whoever tried to kill me last night." "Someone tried to kill you?" The genuine shock in her voice gave me pause. If Victoria was lying, she was an excellent actress. "In Nikolai's lobby," I said. "He stopped it." "Of course he did." Victoria's laugh was humorless. "He can't let anyone else kill you, Jade. You're too valuable. But that doesn't mean he's protecting you. It means he's protecting his investment." The driver was walking toward us now, his hand inside his jacket in a way that suggested he was armed. "I have to go," I said again. "If you change your mind," Victoria pressed a business card into my hand, "call me. Day or night. I'll help you disappear." The driver reached us before I could respond. "Mrs. Brooks? Mr. Blackwood is waiting." I followed him to the car, Victoria's warnings echoing in my mind. As we pulled away from the curb, I saw her standing alone by the bench, watching us go with an expression of profound sadness. The driver took me to an exclusive bridal salon that had apparently been closed to other customers for the afternoon. A team of stylists descended on me the moment I walked through the door, transforming me into someone I barely recognized. The dress they'd selected was simple but elegant, ivory silk that hugged my curves without being revealing. Diamond earrings that probably cost more than my annual salary. Makeup that enhanced my features while still looking natural. When they were finished, I stared at myself in the mirror and saw a bride. Not Jade Brooks, the girl who worked double shifts at the diner to pay for her brother's medications. Someone else entirely. "Beautiful," said a voice behind me. I turned to see Nikolai standing in the doorway, devastating in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Absolutely perfect. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," I said automatically. "Werewolf weddings don't follow human traditions." He dismissed the stylists with a gesture, leaving us alone in the opulent dressing room. "How was your meeting with Victoria Hale?" My blood turned to ice. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Jade." His voice was patient, almost amused. "I can smell her on you. Pine and vanilla, very distinctive. She's been watching you since yesterday morning, probably since you first contacted my office about the contract. She said you killed your brother." "I did." The casual admission hit me like a physical blow. I sank into the nearest chair, legs suddenly unable to support me. "Alexander was going to destroy everything our family had built," Nikolai continued, adjusting his cufflinks as if we were discussing the weather. "He was weak, emotional, ruled by sentiment instead of logic. He would have been a terrible alpha." "So you murdered him?" I challenged him to formal combat, as is our way. He lost. Nikolai's eyes met mine in the mirror. "Victoria conveniently left that part out, didn't she? She said he wanted to release her from the contract. That he loved her. Alexander was infatuated with a pretty face and a sad story. He confused lust with love and nearly compromised the entire pack's future for it." Nikolai moved behind me, his hands resting on my shoulders. "I won't make the same mistake." His touch was warm through the silk of my dress, but I shivered anyway. "What does that mean?" "It means that regardless of what you or I might feel, this arrangement serves a greater purpose. You'll honor the contract, I'll honor mine, and in a year, we'll both walk away with what we wanted." "And if your wolf disagrees?" In the mirror, I saw his eyes flash gold. My wolf knows who's in control. But his hands tightened on my shoulders, and something in his reflection looked hungry. The wedding took place in Nikolai's penthouse, transformed for the occasion with white flowers and candles that cast dancing shadows on the walls. About 30 people were present, all of them watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I didn't recognize any faces, but I could tell they weren't entirely human. Something about the way they moved, the way they breathed, the way their eyes followed my every step. The officiant was an elderly man who spoke in a language I didn't recognize, words that seemed to resonate in my bones. When he switched to English for the vows, his voice carried an authority that made me want to kneel. "Do you, Nikolai Alexander Blackwood, take this woman as your mate, to protect and provide for, to honor above all others, until death claims you both?" "I do." Nikolai's voice was steady, final. "And do you, Jade Elena Brooks, accept this bond, knowing that it cannot be broken, that it will change you in ways you cannot imagine, that you will belong to the pack as surely as you belong to your mate?" The words were different from what we'd rehearsed. I looked at Nikolai, confused, but his expression was unreadable. I hesitated, remembering Victoria's warnings. "I do." The moment the words left my mouth, something shifted in the air. Like electricity building before a storm. Every werewolf in the room went perfectly still, their eyes fixed on Nikolai and me. Then by the ancient laws that govern our kind, the officiant continued, "You are bound. Let any who would challenge this union step forward now, or hold their peace forever." Silence stretched for what felt like eternity. Then, from somewhere in the back of the room, came a slow clap. How touching. Everyone turned toward the voice. A woman stepped out of the shadows near the windows, and I felt Nikolai go rigid beside me. She was tall, elegant, with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. Beautiful in the way that predators are beautiful, all sharp edges and lethal grace. Larissa. Nikolai's voice was carefully controlled. You weren't invited. Since when do I need an invitation to attend family gatherings? She smiled, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp. Besides, I couldn't miss my son's wedding. The room erupted in whispers. I looked at Nikolai, shocked, but he was staring at the woman with an expression of pure hatred. Surprised, darling? Larissa continued, moving closer. Did you think I would stay dead forever? Did you really believe that car accident was enough to stop me? You died 3 years ago, Nikolai said flatly. I was nearly killed 3 years ago. There's a difference. Her ice-chip eyes fixed on me. Hello, daughter-in-law. I'm Larissa Blackwood, Nikolai's mother. The woman he tried to murder. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed Nikolai's arm for support, but he was focused entirely on Larissa. What do you want? He asked. What I've always wanted. What's rightfully mine. She gestured around the penthouse. You stole my place as pack leader when you killed Alexander. You've spent 3 years consolidating power that should never have been yours. But now. She smiled at me. Now you've made a mistake. The mating bond is legitimate, Nikolai said. Witnessed and sealed. Oh, I'm not questioning the bond, darling. I'm questioning her. Larissa pulled something from her purse, a manila folder thick with documents. Did you know your new wife has a rather interesting medical history? She tossed the folder at my feet. Photographs and medical records scattered across the marble floor. I knelt to gather them, my hands shaking, and saw images I didn't recognize. X-rays that looked like mine but weren't quite right. Blood work with results that made no sense. What is this? I whispered. Genetic testing, Larissa said sweetly. Very thorough, very expensive testing. The kind that reveals supernatural heritage going back generations. I stared at the papers in my hands. That's impossible. I'm human. Your mother was human. Your father, however. Larissa's smile widened. Well, let's just say Danny isn't the only one in your family who's going to experience some interesting changes. Nikolai snatched the folder from my hands, scanning the documents rapidly. The color drained from his face. Dormant shifter gene, he said quietly. Activated by extreme stress or... He looked at me with something like horror. Or by mating with an alpha. Congratulations, Larissa said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. You didn't just marry a human, Nikolai. You married a potential rival. Someone whose bloodline is actually stronger than yours. The room erupted in chaos. Werewolves were on their feet, some backing toward the exits, others moving closer as if to attack. I stood frozen in the center of it all, still wearing my wedding dress, still trying to process what I'd just learned. I wasn't human. Had never been human. And according to these documents, I was about to become something much more dangerous than Nikolai's mate. I was about to become his equal. The transformation hit me at 3:17 a.m., 6 hours after Larissa's revelation shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. One moment I was lying in Nikolai's massive bed, staring at the ceiling and trying to make sense of the genetic test results. The next, my bones felt like they were melting and reforming, fire racing through my veins. I bit down on a pillow to muffle my screams, but Nikolai was awake instantly anyway. He rolled toward me, his hands finding my face in the darkness. It's starting, he said, voice tight with something I couldn't identify. Jade, look at me. Focus on my voice. It hurts, I gasped, feeling my spine arch involuntarily. God, it hurts so much. I know. But you have to stay human. Do you hear me? Whatever you feel your body wanting to do, whatever instincts are telling you to let go, you have to fight them. Why? The word came out as more of a growl than speech. Because if you shift for the first time without proper guidance, you might not come back. Panic cut through the pain. What do you mean, not come back? New shifters sometimes get lost in their wolf form. They forget they were ever human. His hands moved to my shoulders, holding me steady as another wave of agony rolled through me. But that's not going to happen to you. I won't let it. For the next 4 hours, Nikolai talked me through the worst pain I'd ever experienced. He told me stories about pack history, about his childhood, about anything that would keep my human mind engaged. When I wanted to tear my skin off, he held my hands. When I wanted to scream, he covered my mouth and reminded me that sound would carry to every werewolf in the building. They can't know you're shifting, he said during a brief lull in the torture. Not yet. Not until we understand what this means. The genetic tests, I managed. Are they real? They're real. His voice was grim. Your father was Magnus Reed. The name meant nothing to me. Who? The alpha who nearly destroyed the North American pack system 30 years ago. He was building an army of hybrid children, trying to create a new breed of shifter that would be stronger than traditional werewolves. Ice formed in my stomach despite the fire in my veins. Children? How many children? We thought we'd found them all. Apparently, we were wrong. Another wave of pain hit, this one centered in my chest. I felt something shift inside me, something wild and foreign that wanted to claw its way out. Nikolai, I whispered. I think it's happening. No. His voice went hard, commanding. You are Jade Brooks. You are human. You work at Murphy's Diner and you hate the smell of coffee, but you make it anyway because you need the tips. You take care of your brother and you read romance novels when you can't sleep. You are not a wolf. Not tonight. I focused on his words, on the familiar details of my ordinary life, and slowly the thing inside me settled. The pain faded to a dull ache. Is it over? I asked. For now. But Jade. He brushed sweat-soaked hair away from my face. This is just the beginning. The mating bond accelerated your dormant genetics, but the actual transformation will take weeks, maybe months. And then what? I become like you. No. His thumb traced my lower lip, the touch gentle despite everything. If these test results are accurate, you'll become something much more dangerous than me. Before I could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He glanced at it and swore under his breath. What is it? Victoria Hale is dead. The news hit me like a physical blow. What? How? Car accident. Very convenient timing. Nikolai was already getting out of bed, reaching for clothes. She was found 2 hours ago on the highway outside the city. Apparently lost control on a curve. You think someone killed her? I know someone killed her. He pulled on jeans and a sweater, moving with predatory efficiency. The question is who? I sat up, ignoring the ache in my bones. Where are you going? To see the body. To find out what Victoria knew that was worth killing her for. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Nikolai's tone brooked no argument. You just went through a partial shift. You're vulnerable right now, and there are already too many people who want you dead. Because of what I am? Because of my father. Because of what you represent. He sat on the edge of the bed, his expression serious. Magnus Reed's children weren't just hybrids, Jade. They were designed to be alpha killers. Stronger, faster, more dominant than any traditional werewolf. If the pack discovers what you are, they'll try to kill me. Some will. Others will try to use you. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. That's why we need to figure out who's behind this before anyone else gets hurt. After Nikolai left, I tried to sleep but couldn't stop thinking about Victoria. She tried to warn me, and now she was dead. How many others had died because of secrets surrounding my family? I was making coffee when my phone rang. Danny's name on the caller ID made me smile for the first time in hours. Hey, how are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, but the doctors say that's normal." His voice was stronger than I'd heard it in months. "Jade, this treatment. It's incredible. I can actually feel my strength coming back." "That's wonderful." I tried to keep the worry out of my voice. Dr. Reeves had mentioned side effects from the experimental procedure. Enhanced healing, increased physical strength. Changes that some might consider supernatural. What if Danny's treatment hadn't just saved his life? What if it had awakened something in him too? "There is one weird thing though," Danny continued. "My sense of smell is going crazy. I can smell what the nurses had for breakfast from 3 rooms away. And the sounds. I can hear conversations happening in the parking lot." My blood turned cold. "Danny, listen to me carefully. Don't mention that to anyone else, okay? Not the doctors, not the nurses, nobody." "Why? What's wrong?" "I can't explain right now, but promise me. And don't let them do any more tests until I get there." "Jade, you're scaring me." "I'll be there in an hour. Just be careful who you trust." I hung up and immediately called Nikolai, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I called the number on Victoria's business card, hoping against hope that somehow the reports of her death were wrong. A man answered. Victoria Hale's phone. Is Victoria there? Who is this? I almost hung up, but something in his tone made me pause. My name is Jade. Victoria was supposed to help me with something. Jade Brooks. Yes. My name is Tristan Webb. I was Victoria's friend. She told me about you before she died. She said if anything happened to her, I should find you. Can we meet? Not over the phone. Too dangerous. He paused. Do you know the coffee shop on 5th and Main? The one with the blue awning? Yes. 1 hour. Come alone, and make sure you're not followed. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, weighing my options. Nikolai had told me to stay put, but Danny was exhibiting signs of supernatural enhancement and a dead woman's friend wanted to meet. I couldn't just sit in the penthouse waiting. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the elevator, ignoring the voice in my head that sounded suspiciously like Nikolai telling me this was a mistake. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. A few college students hunched over laptops, an elderly man reading a newspaper. Normal people living normal lives, oblivious to the supernatural drama playing out around them. Tristan Webb was easy to spot. He sat in a corner booth, back to the wall, eyes constantly scanning the room. Mid-30s, brown hair, unremarkable except for the predatory stillness in the way he held himself. Jade. He stood when I approached, offering his hand. Thank you for coming. You said Victoria told you about me. She said you were in danger. That Nikolai Blackwood had manipulated you into a contract marriage, and that discovering your true heritage would put you at the center of a war you didn't understand. I sat across from him, keeping my voice low. What do you know about my heritage? Enough to know that your father wasn't just any werewolf. Tristan pulled out a tablet, showing me a photograph. This is Magnus Reed in 1995, the year before he died. The man in the photo looked like an older version of Danny. Same dark hair, same kind eyes, same easy smile. But there was something else there too, something wild and dangerous lurking beneath the surface. Victoria spent 3 years researching Magnus Reed's bloodline, Tristan continued. She believed there were more hybrid children out there, and that someone was systematically hunting them down. Hunting them? Why? Because they represent a threat to the established pack hierarchy. Traditional alphas maintain power through strength and dominance, but Magnus Reed's children were designed to be stronger than any alpha. They could challenge the entire system. I thought about the partial transformation I'd experienced, the wild thing inside me that had wanted to claw its way out. How many others are there? Victoria identified 17 possible candidates. As of last week, 12 were dead. All ruled accidents or natural causes. The coffee in my mouth turned bitter. Someone's killing Magnus Reed's children. Someone with access to werewolf society, human government records, and enough resources to make murders look like accidents. Tristan leaned forward. Victoria thought it was Nikolai. That's impossible. Nikolai didn't even know what I was until last night. Are you sure about that? Tristan showed me another document on the tablet. This is a medical report from your father's death. He was killed in a challenge fight, just like Nikolai killed his brother Alexander. But here's the interesting part. The challenger was listed as K. Blackwood. The world tilted. Nikolai killed my father? Nikolai was 17 at the time, so probably not him directly. But someone in the Blackwood family ordered Magnus Reed's death. And now, 30 years later, Nikolai has married Magnus Reed's daughter. You think this was all planned? I think Nikolai has been looking for Magnus Reed's children for years. The contract marriage was just a way to get close to you, to study you. Tristan's expression was grim. Victoria believed he was planning to use you somehow. Maybe as a weapon against rival packs, maybe as breeding stock for a new generation of hybrid wolves. My phone buzzed. A text from Nikolai. Where are you? The penthouse security says you left. I have to go, I said, standing up. Jade, wait. Tristan grabbed my arm. Victoria left something for you. She said to give it to you if anything happened to her. He handed me a small leather journal, its pages yellow with age. This belonged to your father. It contains everything he learned about hybrid genetics, about the experiments that created you. I clutched the journal to my chest. Thank you. Be careful who you trust, Tristan said as I headed for the door. Victoria trusted the wrong person, and now she's dead. The drive back to the penthouse gave me time to think. Too much time. By the time I reached Nikolai's building, I'd convinced myself that Tristan was right. The timing was too convenient. Nikolai appearing in my life just when Danny needed expensive medical treatment. The contract marriage that happened to activate my dormant genetics. His mother showing up with genetic test results she couldn't possibly have obtained without help. It was all too orchestrated to be coincidence. I found Nikolai in his study, papers spread across his desk. He looked up when I entered, relief flickering across his features. Thank God. I was about to tear the city apart looking for you. Were you? I kept my voice carefully neutral. Or were you hoping I'd lead you to someone else like me? Something shifted in his expression. What are you talking about? I threw the journal on his desk. I know about my father. I know a Blackwood killed him. Nikolai went very still. Jade. Was any of it real? The contract, the marriage, caring about Danny's surgery? Or was it all just an elaborate plan to get close to Magnus Reed's daughter? It's complicated. Complicated. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's one way to put it. Sit down. Let me explain. No. I backed toward the door. I'm done being manipulated. I'm done being lied to. I want the truth, Nikolai. All of it. He stood slowly, his movements predatory. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I knew who your father was. Yes, I've been looking for Magnus Reed's children for years. And yes, I orchestrated our meeting. Each word hit like a physical blow, but I forced myself to stay calm. Why? Because they're all dead, Jade. Every single hybrid child except you and your brother. Someone has been systematically hunting them for decades, and I've been trying to find them before the killer could. You expect me to believe you were trying to protect me? I expect you to use your head. His voice carried an edge of frustration. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. If I wanted to use you as some kind of weapon, I wouldn't have spent the night helping you through a partial shift. I would have let it happen and dealt with whatever came out the other side. Then what do you want? Nikolai was quiet for a long moment, his storm-gray eyes searching my face. I want to find out who killed your father. I want to stop them from killing anyone else. And I want to keep you safe while we figure out what your genetics mean for both our futures. Our futures. The mating bond, Jade. It's real, regardless of how it started. My wolf has claimed you, and there's no going back from that. As if summoned by his words, I felt something stir inside me. The wild thing that had tried to emerge during the night, responding to his presence. I felt it too, I whispered. During the transformation. Something that recognized you. The bond works both ways. Human or hybrid, you're my mate now. He moved closer, and I didn't step back. But that doesn't mean I own you. It doesn't mean you can't choose to leave when this is over. And if I choose to stay? Then we figure out how to build something real from all these lies. Before I could respond, every light in the penthouse went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. Nikolai's phone started buzzing frantically. Building security, he said, answering immediately. What's happening? I couldn't hear the response, but I saw his face go white. How many? He asked. Then, lock down everything. No one gets to the penthouse level. He hung up and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. What is it? I asked. Larissa is back. And she's not alone. He moved to a wall panel I hadn't noticed before, pressing his palm against it. The panel slid away, revealing an arsenal of weapons. She brought the entire European pack with her. They're here for you, Jade. What do they want? To see if Magnus Reed's daughter is everything the legends say she is. He handed me a knife, its blade gleaming silver. And if you are, they're going to try to claim you for themselves. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see shapes moving on the building's fire escapes. Too fast and agile to be human. How many? I asked. 30, maybe 40. Nikolai was loading a gun with bullets that looked different from normal ammunition. More than we can fight. We. His smile was all predator. You're my mate, Jade. Where you go, I go. The elevator dinged somewhere in the distance. Then the lights went out completely, and something howled in the darkness. The real war was about to begin. The howling stopped abruptly, replaced by the sound of claws scraping against metal. They were in the elevator shaft, climbing toward us with inhuman speed. How long do we have? I whispered, gripping the silver knife Nikolai had given me. 2 minutes, maybe less. He was checking weapons with practiced efficiency, loading silver bullets into multiple guns. Jade, I need you to listen carefully. When they break through that door, stay behind me. Don't try to fight, don't try to help. Just survive. There's something you're not telling me. The wild thing inside me was growing stronger, responding to the approaching danger. I can feel it. You're not just protecting me from them. You're protecting them from me. Nikolai's hands stilled on the weapons. Your father wasn't just creating hybrid children, Jade. He was creating something specific. Something the old legends called the true alpha. What's that supposed to mean? It means that in a room full of werewolves, you don't have to submit to anyone. Ever. Traditional pack hierarchy doesn't apply to you. His storm gray eyes met mine. It means you could kill every wolf coming up that elevator shaft without breaking a sweat, and they know it. The elevator dinged. 37 floors up, and they'd climbed the entire way in less than 2 minutes. Then why are they coming? Because Larissa thinks she can control you. She thinks that with the right combination of threats and promises, she can turn you into her weapon against me. Nikolai moved to the reinforced door, pressing his ear against the metal. She's wrong. How can you be so sure? He looked back at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, his expression was completely unguarded. Because you chose me, Jade. Not the contract, not the money, not the obligation. When you had every reason to run last night, you stayed. When you could have let Victoria's warnings scare you away, you married me anyway. And when I told you the truth about your father, you didn't try to kill me for it. Maybe I should have. Maybe. But you didn't. His smile was soft, almost vulnerable. That's how I know you're nothing like Magnus Reed. The door exploded inward, metal shards flying like shrapnel. Werewolves poured through the opening, moving faster than my eyes could track. But somehow, I could sense exactly where each one was, could anticipate their movements before they made them. Nikolai opened fire, silver bullets finding their targets with deadly precision. But there were too many of them, coming from too many directions. Within seconds, he was overwhelmed. Enough. Larissa's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Stand down, all of you. The attacking werewolves froze mid-strike, their eyes glowing in the darkness. Larissa walked through the destroyed doorway as calmly as if she were entering a tea party, her silver hair gleaming in the emergency lighting. "Hello again, dear," she said to me. "Did you miss me? What do you want?" I kept the knife raised, though something told me it wouldn't do much good against 30 werewolves. The same thing I've always wanted. To restore the natural order. She gestured to the wolves surrounding us. My son has spent 3 years consolidating power that was never meant to be his. But now, with you by his side, he's become truly dangerous. I'm not by his side. This is just a contract. Larissa's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, darling. You still don't understand, do you? The moment you accepted the mating bond, you became the most powerful werewolf in North America. Possibly the world. One of the wolves behind her shifted restlessly, and she silenced him with a look. Magnus Reed spent decades perfecting the hybrid process, she continued. Most of his children were failures, stronger than normal werewolves perhaps, but still bound by traditional pack dynamics. But you're his masterpiece. A true alpha, capable of commanding any werewolf regardless of their bloodline or position. That's impossible. Is it? Larissa's smile was cold. Tell them to kneel, Jade. Go ahead. Command them. I'm not going to. Kneel, I said, the word slipping out before I could stop it. Every werewolf in the room except Nikolai and Larissa dropped to their knees, heads bowed in submission. The compulsion behind my voice had been automatic, instinctive. Fascinating, Larissa murmured. You didn't even mean to do that, did you? It's simply your nature asserting itself. I stared at the kneeling wolves, horror flooding through me. Let them up. Stand up, all of you. They rose as one, but I could see the fear in their eyes now. Fear of me. This is why Magnus Reed had to die, Larissa said. This is why his children had to be eliminated. A true alpha disrupts the natural balance, threatens thousands of years of carefully maintained hierarchy. You've been killing them, I realized. All of Magnus Reed's children. It wasn't some mysterious enemy. It was you. It was necessary. She moved closer, her ice-chip eyes fixed on mine. But I made a mistake with you, didn't I? I thought I could use you against Nikolai, turn your power to my advantage. I didn't realize how thoroughly he'd manipulated your emotions. Nobody manipulated me. Didn't they? Larissa gestured to Nikolai, who was watching our exchange with growing tension. Do you know what he did the night your brother was admitted to the hospital? He had Danny's regular physician transferred to another hospital. He arranged for Dr. Reeves to take the case. He made sure Danny received the experimental treatment that would awaken any dormant supernatural genetics. The blood drained from my face. What? The treatment your brother received wasn't just experimental, dear. It was specifically designed to activate hybrid DNA. Nikolai didn't just want to save Danny's life. He wanted to see what would happen if Magnus Reed's children were exposed to forced genetic activation. I turned to look at Nikolai, but he couldn't meet my eyes. Is that true? Jade, is it true? Yes. His voice was barely a whisper. But not for the reasons she's implying. Then why? The wild thing inside me was growing, responding to my emotional turmoil. Why would you experiment on my brother? Because I needed to know if the stories about Magnus Reed's bloodline were real. Because if they were, every hybrid child was in mortal danger, and I needed to find them first. Nikolai finally looked at me, his expression raw with regret. Danny was dying anyway, Jade. The treatment gave him a chance at life, even if it came with complications. Complications like turning into a werewolf? Like becoming something new. Something that might be able to survive what's coming. Larissa clapped slowly. How touching. He experimented on your brother out of the goodness of his heart. Tell me, Nikolai, did you mention that the genetic activation process has a 60% fatality rate? The knife fell from my suddenly numb fingers. What? The treatment Danny received kills most subjects within 72 hours, Larissa continued with obvious satisfaction. The experimental designation isn't because it's new, darling. It's because it's usually fatal. You're lying. But even as I said it, I knew she wasn't. Nikolai's expression told me everything I needed to know. He gambled with your brother's life to test a theory, Larissa said. And now Danny is either going to die from genetic rejection, or he's going to become something as dangerous as you are. Either way, Nikolai got what he wanted, proof that Magnus Reed's bloodline is active and unstable. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't human anger, it was something primal, territorial, absolute. The emergency lighting flickered as power surged through me, and every werewolf in the room took an involuntary step backward. You used me, I said to Nikolai, my voice carrying harmonics that made the windows vibrate. You used Danny. You manipulated everything from the beginning. Jade, please. Silence. The command hit him like a physical blow, cutting off his words mid-sentence. Even Larissa looked impressed. That's it, dear, she said softly. Let the power flow through you. Feel what it means to be truly dominant. But I wasn't listening to her anymore. I was thinking about Danny, alone in a hospital bed, potentially dying from a treatment Nikolai had orchestrated. I was thinking about Victoria Hale, dead because she tried to warn me. I was thinking about all the hybrid children who had died over the years, killed by the woman standing in front of me. And I was thinking about the fact that despite everything, despite all the lies and manipulation, some part of me still cared about the man who had betrayed me. The mating bond was real. Even knowing what I knew now, I could feel the connection between us, the way my wolf recognized his. But that didn't mean I had to accept it. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice carrying absolute authority. Larissa, you're going to call off your wolves and leave. Tonight. If I ever see you again, I'll kill you. Dear child, you can't simply. I said leave. The compulsion behind the words was irresistible. Larissa's eyes went wide with shock as her body began moving toward the destroyed doorway against her will. This isn't over, she snarled, fighting the command but unable to stop herself from walking. You think you can just dismiss the natural order? You think you can? Go. She was gone, taking her pack with her, leaving only Nikolai and me in the ruins of his penthouse. Jade, he said carefully. I know you're angry. Angry. I turned to face him fully, letting him see the gold burning in my eyes. I'm not angry, Nikolai. I'm done. The mating bond can be broken. I pulled my father's journal from my jacket pocket, flipping to a page I'd discovered while reading in the coffee shop. Magnus Reed documented everything, including how true alphas can sever unwanted mate bonds. It's painful, but it's possible. Something that might have been panic flickered across Nikolai's features. You don't understand the consequences. I understand that you've lied to me about everything that matters. I understand that my brother might die because of your experiments. And I understand that despite the bond between us, I can't trust you. I moved toward what was left of the door, but Nikolai stepped into my path. I won't let you leave. You won't let me? Power surged through me again, stronger this time. You're going to try to force me to stay? If necessary. His eyes were glowing gold now, his wolf responding to the challenge in my voice. You're my mate, Jade. Bond or no bond, I won't lose you. Then you should have thought about that before you gambled with Danny's life. What happened next wasn't entirely under my control. The true alpha power that had been building inside me finally found its release, and Nikolai was thrown backward with enough force to shatter the reinforced glass of his office windows. He landed hard against the far wall, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. I was across the room and kneeling beside him before I consciously decided to move. Nikolai. Oh God, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. His voice was weak but steady. And you were right too. I manipulated you, experimented on your brother, put you both in danger for my own purposes. Why? I pressed my hands against the worst of his cuts, trying to stop the bleeding. Just tell me why. Because I've been in love with you since I was 17 years old. The admission hit me like a physical blow. What? I was there the night my father killed Magnus Reed. I saw you and Danny being taken away by social services afterward. You were 8 years old, crying for a father you'd never see again. Nikolai's eyes found mine, and I saw truth in them for the first time. I spent 20 years looking for you, Jade. The contract marriage wasn't manipulation. It was the only way I could think of to keep you safe and find out if you were really Magnus Reed's daughter. You've been looking for me for 20 years? Every day. And when I finally found you, when I realized what you were becoming. He reached up to touch my face, his fingers coming away bloody. I knew that everyone would want to either kill you or use you, including me. But you chose to protect me instead. I chose to try. I'm not sure I succeeded. I sat back on my heels, trying to process everything. The man I'd married had killed my father but spent 20 years searching for me. He'd experimented on my brother but saved both our lives. He'd manipulated our meeting but genuinely cared about my safety. Danny, I said suddenly. I have to get to the hospital. Jade, wait. Nikolai struggled to sit up. There's something else you need to know. The reason Larissa wanted you so badly, the reason she's been killing hybrid children. What? Magnus Reed didn't just create true alphas. He created something that could reshape the entire supernatural world. And if Danny survives the activation process, if he develops the same abilities you have, he'll be a target too. He'll be the most valuable werewolf alive. 2 true alphas with unbreakable sibling loyalty. Nikolai's expression was grim. Every pack in the world will want to either control you or destroy you. I stood up, decision made. Then I guess we'd better make sure he survives. You said you've been in love with me for 20 years. You said you chose to protect me instead of using me. I extended my hand to help him up. Prove it. He took my hand, letting me pull him to his feet. What about the mating bond? What about it? Are you going to break it? I considered the question, looking at this man who had lied to me, manipulated me, and saved me all at the same time. The bond between us was real, but so was the choice I had to make about our future. Ask me again in a year, I said finally. When the original contract expires. When Danny is safe and Larissa is dealt with and all the lies between us have been sorted out. And if you choose to leave? Then I leave. I moved toward the destroyed doorway. But Nikolai? Yes. If you ever lie to me again, if you ever put Danny at risk for your own purposes, I'll do more than just throw you across a room. His smile was rueful but genuine. Understood. We left the penthouse together, heading for the hospital and whatever came next. The mating bond hummed between us, complicated but unbroken. I was still angry with him, still hurt by his deceptions, but I was also beginning to understand that love and trust were 2 different things. I loved him. The bond ensured that, regardless of logic or circumstances. But trust? Trust would have to be earned. 6 months later, Danny had fully recovered from the genetic activation process, developing enhanced senses and strength but maintaining his human appearance. He'd also started dating Dr. Reeves, who turned out to be a retired werewolf hunter with fascinating stories about supernatural medicine. Larissa had disappeared entirely after our confrontation, though her pack continued to send agents to test our defenses periodically. None of them made it past the building's lobby. And Nikolai? Nikolai spent every day proving that he meant what he'd said about protecting rather than using me. He taught me to control my true alpha abilities, helped me understand the complex politics of supernatural society, and never once tried to command me or restrict my choices. The original contract had 6 months left to run. 6 months to decide whether the bond between us was worth building a real marriage on, or whether some betrayals were too fundamental to overcome. But as I watched him teaching Danny to fight while Dr. Reeves cheered from the sidelines, as I felt the gold glow in my eyes respond to his presence, as I remembered the look on his face when he told me he'd been searching for me for 20 years. I was beginning to think I already knew what my answer would be. The alpha had found his true mate. Now we just had to figure out what came next.